Hey everyone, it's Jenny. Thanks so much for listening to my commute podcasts about Weak Hero. Seriously, your comments and feedback are what keep me motivated to make these during my crazy daily commute. I originally created this channel just to connect with other Weak Hero fans, and honestly, I'm completely blown away by the depth of discussion happening in the comments section. If you haven't watched Weak Hero Seasons 1 and 2 yet, heads up, this entire episode is basically one giant spoiler fest, so maybe come back after you've binged the series. Today I wanted to spend some quality time diving into the amazing comments you've left on my recent Suho and Baomok analysis videos. What I absolutely love about this drama, and I think this is what makes it such a masterpiece, is that it doesn't hold your hand and spell everything out. The writers and directors leave so much emotional subtext and character motivation up to viewer interpretation, which creates these incredibly rich discussions between fans. Everyone can watch the same scene and come away with completely different takes on what's happening psychologically with these characters. So let's start with some thoughts about Suho that really resonated with me. One subscriber left this beautiful comment expressing how much they admire Suho's strength, honesty, and overall maturity, and they specifically credited his grandmother's loving influence in raising him. I was nodding along so hard reading this because that's exactly what I was trying to convey in my analysis. What really struck me while researching for that Suho video was discovering just how much gets lost in translation. I was watching with Netflix subtitles and getting frustrated because they couldn't capture Suho's wordplay and the way he banters with Seon and Baomok. There are these cultural nuances and linguistic jokes that just don't translate to English, and it made me realize how much international viewers are missing in terms of understanding Suho's personality. He's actually quite playful and affectionate in ways that don't come across in the subtitles. For example, when Suho calls himself Hyung to Baomok and Seon, it's this sweet, slightly protective gesture that shows how he sees himself as their older brother figure. But in English, it just becomes generic dialogue. Same with his teasing. There's this warmth and fondness in his Korean speech patterns that gets flattened in translation. Now, let's talk about episode 7, which is probably the most emotionally devastating episode of the entire series. I got some really thought-provoking perspectives on Baomok's actions and motivations that I want to share with you. One viewer made this really stark comment. They said they don't want Baomok to return in any potential season 3 because they genuinely don't believe he regrets what he did to Suho. They think he only feels bad about facing consequences, not about the actual harm he caused. This is such a valid perspective, and it really made me think about the difference between remorse and self-pity. I responded by sharing how I've been wondering about alternate timelines. Like, how different might Baomok have been if he'd experienced proper parental love and support? That final ring scene where he kicks Suho in the head comes immediately after Suho punches him, and I noticed the camera angle is almost identical to when his adoptive father physically abused him earlier in the series. To me, it felt like, in that moment of rage, Baomok was projecting all his hatred and pain from his father's abuse onto Suho. But here's the thing, I'm absolutely not trying to excuse or justify his violence. What he did was inexcusable and caused irreversible damage. I just find the psychological layers fascinating from a storytelling perspective. Another subscriber brought up this really complex question about forgiveness that's been haunting me. They said that if Baomok ever genuinely apologized, Suho and Seon should forgive him, but never become friends with him again. They also mentioned being certain that Baomok had romantic feelings for Suho, which ties into some of the directing choices I analyzed in previous episodes. This got me thinking about different types of forgiveness. Like, there's forgiveness for your own peace of mind versus forgiveness that includes rebuilding trust and relationship. Can you forgive someone while still maintaining healthy boundaries? I think that's exactly what this viewer was getting at. Then, I got this incredibly detailed comment from someone who clearly has a background in psychology, or at least thinks deeply about human behavior. They made this brilliant observation about Baomok being an orphan and how that fundamental abandonment shaped literally everything about his character. They pointed out something I hadn't fully considered. After Baomok drifted away from Suho, he basically stopped caring about Seon altogether. He let Seon get beaten up, never thanked him for protection, and basically ignored his existence until he was reminded of how dangerous Seon could be. But here's the fascinating part. When Siyun has that projection of Baomseok in Class 2, imaginary Baomseok treats Siyun as an equal and actively seeks his company. This commenter explained how Baomseok learned this twisted survival mechanism from his adoptive father's abuse. The best way to stay safe is to beat someone who's weaker or already weakened. That's why he consistently targeted vulnerable victims like Yonggi and later Suho when he was defenseless. What really got to me was their analysis of Baomseok's deep-rooted fear of abandonment. As an orphan who was then adopted into an abusive household, he never experienced unconditional love. So when he perceived that Suho wasn't reciprocating his intense feelings, like the whole Instagram follow situation that I analyzed in detail, it didn't just feel like rejection, it felt like complete abandonment and betrayal. This connects to something I keep thinking about regarding Siyun's character too. Remember in the finale when Siyun is taking his revenge on everyone? He brutally attacks Jongchun and Taehoon, but when he gets to Byumseok, he can't bring himself to hit him the same way. There's this moment of hesitation, this flicker of their former friendship. That inner loyalty Siyun has, it runs deeper than anger, deeper than betrayal. I think what makes many fans unable to forgive Baomseok isn't just the violence itself, but the pattern of targeting weaker victims. Kidnapping Yonggi was cowardly and cruel. Attacking Suho when he was defenseless crossed every line. But when I watch that final ring scene with Hong Kyung's absolutely incredible acting, I see this impulsive explosion of years of conflicted love-hate feelings towards Suho. It wasn't calculated evil. It was this devastating release of unfulfilled need for connection, for the deep friendship and love he felt he could never earn from Suho. Obviously, that doesn't make it okay, but it makes it tragically human. One thing I keep coming back to is how the show demonstrates that abuse creates cycles. Byumseok's adoptive father's political career and physical abuse directly contributed to creating someone who would eventually harm others. But the show doesn't use this as an excuse. It presents it as a tragic reality while still holding Byumseok accountable for his choices. What makes Class 1 such a brilliant piece of storytelling is exactly this complexity. Every character has layers. Every relationship has multiple interpretations, and every viewer can find something different to analyze. The more you watch, the more details you notice, the more you want to discuss it with other fans who caught things you missed. Love that we can have these nuanced conversations about morally complex characters without everything being black and white. Byumseok can be simultaneously sympathetic and unforgivable. Suho can be both mature and naive. Siyun can be both victim and perpetrator of violence. Keep these amazing comments coming. I genuinely look forward to reading your different perspectives and interpretations. You're making this such an engaging community to be part of, and honestly, your insights often make me see these characters in completely new ways. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back soon with more analysis.